So we just opened 25 crates. Got the Able Gamers charity bundle for, I believe it was 13 bucks, 13 US dollars on Steam. 25 crates, and I did not get a single legendary. They're really, really rare to get. They're very expensive too. As you can see, I clicked on the forge a minute ago, and 145,000 robits, almost 160,000 robits for the EMP. They're very expensive. They really changed the game though for your bot, so we're going to recycle a bunch of crap. We've already got about almost 100,000 robots, so we're going to recycle a bunch of crap, and I'm going to recycle some things that a lot of other people would probably not recycle. I'm keeping certain items that I don't need right now, but I don't recommend doing that in most cases. In most cases, I recommend recycling anything and everything you're not going to use right at that moment instead of sitting on it and hoping that your crates give you the items that you need, because you're probably not going to get what you want anyway. So we're going to recycle most of the crap that we got out of those crates. I don't use electroplates very much, so I'm going to recycle most of these shapes, but I do keep some. I keep 10 of each of the ones that I use regularly, and just recycle the rest. And some of these came from matches prior. Obviously not all of this is stuff I got out of the crates. Don't use Tesla blades, don't need those. I don't use arrow flak. I'm going to keep 4 of those just in case I want to build a medic later, but don't really need those. To be quite honest, I don't need any more rail decimators. I've already got 2 rail tanks and a rail cruiser. I don't need any more of those, so we're going to get rid of all those too. I don't use the lower level plasma anymore. I don't use anything below disintegrators as far as lasers go. So we're going to get rid of all this stuff that I don't use. I'm going to keep 2 of each of these wings and rudders too, because when I build hovers I like to use them sometimes. So we're going to keep those around. And I'm actually going to keep some of these different rotor blades around, some of these mid-tiers. I have no need for the larger ones because their size is not enough to offset how easy they are to shoot off. So I don't really do drones, so I don't need many thrusters. I do keep all my carbon 6 cheetah thrusters, but we don't need those around. Don't use the lower tier hovers, even though a lot of people do like them. I don't use them, so I'm going to recycle those. I don't use mech legs. We're going to get rid of those. No point using the large tank tracks right now, so we're going to get rid of those. Let's see, I don't need any more than 4 of each of these. And we're going to get rid of all of our low tier wheels. We have no use for those at all. So we actually got a fair amount of robits out of 25 crates. You could say 25 matches at 1750 CPU would net you about 80, 90,000 robits. That's pretty good. It's 25 matches. That's 25 battle arena matches though, and those matches could go on for 20 minutes. They don't usually last less than 10. About 10 to 15 minutes is your typical match. So that's 250 hours of gameplay. That's a lot of gameplay. Not hours. What am I talking about? It's not 250 hours. It's 250 minutes, which is still a lot of gameplay. But we've got a nice amount of robots here, so we're going to recycle those. And now I've got a nice chunk of robots. However, if I were to go want to build one of these suckers, I'm going to be basically broke again. So here's the problem with the crate system, is it's all random. You never know what you're going to get. You're going to have plenty of cubes to do anything you want with. Those are common items. They drop in the lower level crates, and you get plenty of them. You get tons of them. You have plenty of cubes. I've actually recycled ass loads of cubes. Cubes aren't the problem. You actually get a fair amount of arrow rods too. Those seem to drop fairly often for your rare items, and they come in pairs, so you get 2 at a time. I didn't earn all of these through matches. I had a bunch of short and long run arc rods before these diagonals came out, because I like to use arrow rods a lot for damage control and weight reduction in cruisers. So those are going to be pretty common. You'll drop helium now and then. I crafted these. These drop in pairs, and they're a little bit rarer. They're supposedly epic items. My belief is that these should actually be rare and not epic and still drop in pairs. Maybe a little more expensive than the arrow rods, but there's no reason why blocks like building blocks for your bot should be epic. There's no reason at all for that. They should not be epic. At most, they should be rare, and they should all, honestly, be common to uncommon. We don't have any uncommon building blocks. Functional parts, there's lots of uncommon functional parts, but we don't have any uncommon building blocks. And honestly, I think arrow rods should be uncommon, and the struts should be rare. We shouldn't have any epic or legendary building blocks. These are the base blocks that any bot is going to be made out of. You're going to be using these on every bot. So I don't understand the reasoning behind that. And then you get into your functional parts. A lot of those are uncommon, and that's okay. I'm pretty much okay with where most of the functional parts sit as far as rarity. Weapons the same way. Weapons and shields, they're all pretty much okay where they sit. Maybe a little bit of shifting could be done. But the high dollar items here, these are the ones you're really going to be after as you increase in the game. Increase level, especially once you get to like 1200, 1500 CPU. You're really going to want to start using these, because you're going to be facing players that have these, and you're going to be at a slight disadvantage if you don't have them. I don't know why we still have that receiver tracker. Let's get rid of that too. I don't use receivers. And then you have all your cosmetics. These don't really matter. They don't affect your game or anything. They're mostly cosmetic. Speedometers are helpful a little bit to know how fast your bot is. If you put a lot of stock into actual numbers, I put more stock into how it functions in game as opposed to trying to hit numbers. Though I do like to have 200 miles per hour at overclock 10 as a baseline to set for anything that's supposed to be fast on the ground. It's got to go at least 200. And then your altimeters can show you when you're approaching like your flight ceiling, where you start getting wonky performance out of your aircraft. So the problem with this, like I said, is that it's all randomly generated. There's no guarantee that as you progress in level that you are going to get the parts you need to build the bots you want to build. You can't do a lot of experimenting either. You have to recycle stuff a lot, and it's very expensive to build new bots. I've still got some bots that I had about halfway up my climb to level 150. This bot, for instance, was built at 826 CPU, and I haven't taken it apart because it was a good build. I have no use for the parts really on it, and I guess I could put them in my stock of parts, but I have no need for that. So I'd rather keep the bot and maybe play it again. Doesn't have any modules, and here's another problem with that, is that a lot of these builds you make after you put them together, you don't have room to add new stuff to them. You have to go back and build a completely new bot. You don't have a lot of room for upgrading. Like, the structure of this won't allow me to put a module inside it. It's a little more durable than bots that have modules inside of them, but the way I've built it is I can't take anything out of the inside without disturbing all of the damage control underneath. and put a module in it. So now I've got a bot that I don't really need. I could recycle it, but it's not going to pay me a whole lot either. So I would rather just keep it. I've got a lot of damage control going on here, and I can't take any of it out without just totally rebuilding the bot. So you run into the problem of not having enough good parts to build a new bot. It takes forever, so you wind up stuck with like an 826 CPU bot, and you wind up fighting 1200 CPU bots because you just haven't earned enough. Even with protonium crates, on this account I got lots of protonium crates, and even with those you still don't earn enough to build a brand new bot that's just as good as the other one but higher in CPU. So you wind up facing opponents that have way better builds than you. And if you're like an average player and you're not getting protonium crates all the time, or this is your first playthrough and you're still figuring things out, it gets even more difficult. The gap widens because you don't have as many chances to get the better parts. Now, getting protonium crates doesn't guarantee you better parts. I've gotten really terrible protonium crates full of uncommons and only 2 rares after a 22-minute long 5 versus 8 that turned in. It started as a 6 versus 8. My team was 6, and they dropped a player, we dropped a player, so it was 5 versus 8 and then 5 versus 7 for a while, and we won the match. But I had twice the score of everyone on my team and 3 times the score of the enemy team. Many times I was out there all by myself trying to respawn my allies and desperately win this match. A lot of people were trying to surrender, and we actually wound up pulling the game out and winning at the last minute because I went to their reactor. But when I opened my crate, all I got was a bunch of garbage for 22 minutes of gameplay. That's not it's not conducive to player progression. As you can see, I've got a blink down in the middle of this spot, but it can't really be upgraded further beyond that. I'd have to take it apart and build another. So I've just kept it. I use it every once in a while. There's a fun little pickup truck I had built. Again, I could slightly upgrade it by taking some stuff out of the bed and leaving like a module exposed back there, but I like keeping some of these really cool builds. You can upload them to the shop, but you can't download your own bots, so I like to keep them. And if I were to recycle this, I'm not going to get much out of it anyway. These wheels aren't worth a whole lot. The plasma cannons on it are uncommon. And I'm just going to get a handful of robits, and in the big picture, it's just not worth it to take apart something that's cool looking and recycle it. Same here. This actually has room for a couple modules. It was built later in the game. I had a blink and a shield in it, and I took them out for other builds. That's another problem, is that you wind up like I said, if you want to experiment with different builds, you have to strip parts out of your already existing builds because your income is not enough to build a whole new bot and use some of the same parts that you have in other bots. Same thing here. I had a blink and I had a power module in it, excuse me, and I had to take them out to use them in other builds. I didn't want to take this apart though because I was proud of it. It's a cool looking race car. It's pretty fast, but it is a cruiser and it doesn't do great because it's a cruiser and cruisers kind of suck. So I wound up building some rail tanks. Tanks are bad too, but I like playing them. I don't really play the meta builds. I use this tank a lot. It's got 2 modules in it, modules that I stole out of these other builds. I've got lots of art bots. I play art bots a lot because they're fun and challenging to actually do well with. But the problem is that if you want to use these modules, and all these are laser disintegrators, it's going to take a really, really long time to build up enough robots for it's what you want, or a hell of a lot of luck to get the parts you need to make new bots. So I wouldn't expect to have 30 or 40 bots unless you've played this game already and you do really, really well all the time. So if you're a newer player, it's going to take a lot of grinding to get the parts that you want. This one's got 3 modules in it. It does really well in both Battle Arena and Team Deathmatch, so I keep it. Same here, 2 modules inside it. Very cheap movement parts in there. I have the very base level tank tracks. You don't really need anything more than that. But the rails on it, the rail erasers, competitive at 1750 CPU and your regular standard matches where you're not fighting platoons, they're expensive. They're very expensive to forge, so it takes a lot of grinding. That's the problem with this system, is that it takes so much grinding. And I understand that developers are probably trying to facilitate income. They're trying to generate income by having people buy crates like I just did with the Able Gamers bundle. But the thing is a lot of people aren't going to do that. There has to be something more than randomly generated garbage in a bunch of crates to entice people to play, to pay to play. You do get your paint colors. You do get lots of paint colors when you pay. You get all these colors down here. You get 12 additional colors on top of the 4 starter colors. But that alone is really not going to be enough to entice people to pay. And nobody wants to pay for crates where you don't even know what items you're going to get out of it. You might get a bunch of crap and just basically waste your money. You do get twice the XP, so you gain levels twice as fast with premium. But that's kind of just a bonus. That alone, even with all the other things you get, it's just not enough to entice people to pay. The crate system is what really borks this all up. Now, maybe if we had even more colors, 2 more starter colors and 2 more rows, 6 more premium colors to use, that'd be great. Or even textures to add to your blocks, so you can maybe make your tank look all beat up, or chrome it out, or add like a matte texture to it instead of shiny. Things like that. That would actually, that may actually entice more players to pay for premium. And we used to have the ability, back when this Community Robot Factory came out, we used to have the ability to go in and you could buy a bot with real dollars. You could buy a bot with what was called Galaxy Cash. It was GC. And if you like this bot, say, which actually I do think it looks pretty cool, you could spend a little chunk of change on it and buy the bot. And then the owner got a GC bonus. The company made money, and you were able to actually buy specific parts that you wanted. Like if you wanted the Carbon 6 lasers, and maybe this bot didn't perform too well in battle. I don't know. It might perform really great. But maybe it didn't perform well in battle. At least you bought the exact parts that you wanted instead of a crate full of random garbage. Any game that lets you buy, I can't say any game, all the games I've played lately, Team Fortress 2 is an excellent example, that lets you buy stuff. They'll let you buy the items too, one by one. Like if I wanted a cosmetic, like a certain hat, I could go into the shop and I could buy that hat. I could buy, if I wanted a specific rocket launcher for my soldier, I could go in and I could buy that rocket launcher for like $1 or $2, and boom, there's a microtransaction. I get the weapon I want, and I don't have to grind and wait for the damn thing to drop or forge it somehow. I go in there and I get what I want, and I can play the game and enjoy it more. There's a point where being grindy becomes too grindy and random is too random, and you just can't get what you freaking want because it's so grindy and there's so many parts, and the system just doesn't work. So this isn't a good system. It may be generating some revenue, but there are way better ways to generate revenue. Like I said, more paint colors, the ability to buy bots with cash again from the shop, and the ability to buy certain parts, maybe just your very expensive parts like your modules and your cosmetic weapons. The ability to buy those with cash was pretty important. A lot of people liked to show their support for the game and be set apart from the rest by that support by buying these items. Well, now anybody can forge them. There's nothing that's special about them, and even if we could buy them with cash, why would we now? Because you can forge them eventually. So they've really shot themselves in the foot when it comes to making money. I feel like they're holding themselves back with this whole system the way it's currently set up, and it's just a multitude of poor decisions that have been made. and it also hinders our enjoyment of the game. And I think that's a big part of what's holding this game back. There are many other factors holding this game back, but the premium system and what you get for your money just, it's not worth it. You're not getting your money's worth out of it, and that's that. So hope you enjoyed the video.